All right, ladies and gentlemen, please settle down so that we can just start our session. I understand the lunch was a bit extended and it was a wholesome one, but nonetheless, we must go on as we're already running behind the schedule. Thank you so much. This session is all about space-enabled homeland security, strengthening India's security and resilience. As India emerges as a leading space power, space-based technologies are becoming indispensable for homeland security. Enhanced collaboration among government, industry, startups, academia, and security agencies will drive secure communications, advanced Earth observation, and resilient infrastructure, enabling India to effectively address evolving threats and build a future-ready national security ecosystem. That is all about the session for today, and I would like to invite our esteemed chair over here, Mr. Rajiv Jain, Ex-Director, Intelligence Bureau and Member, National Human Rights and Commission. Can we have a huge round of applause? Sir, we welcome you. Also would like to call our esteemed moderator, Mr. Sanjay Kundu, former DGP, Himachal Pradesh. Sir, we welcome you too. And our three other esteemed speakers for this session, Mr.RS Dalal, former DGP, Haryana Police. Sir, can we have you? Dr. Ramayanam, CEO, Sathya Technology Services. And last but not the least, Major General C.S. Pannu, ex-Army General Officer. We all welcome you. Over to you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Actually, indeed, it is a moment of great pleasure for me to be moderating a session with such heavyweights. Two are from my service. Just to my right is Mr. Rajiv Jain. He's had a very illustrious career in the IPS. He's a graduate, postgraduate in history from Hindu College. He's also law graduate. And he served in the Intelligence Bureau. He was Director Intelligence Bureau for 2.5 years. Then he was a member of NHRC for 4 years. And besides that, he's been a diplomat also, and he's served in Canada. Besides being an ordinary IPS officer, he was the best probationer of his batch, and he was the best outdoor also, Sword of Honor also. Please welcome, sir. On his right is Mr. Ranjeev Singh Dalal. He's from the 1974 batch of IPS. He was topper of his batch. He is a graduate in law from Delhi University. And he holds the record of the longest DGP of Haryana. And he's also an institutional builder like Mr. Jain. During his tenure, he formed the Commissionerate of Police in Gurgaon, Faridabad, and Ambala, Panchkula. Because the populations were increasing, it was difficult to manage these districts. And he served 8 years in Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy of Administration as a trainer, as a director, and a lot of civil services officers, including ISF, have been trained by him. He's an avid horse rider also, and he's a champion horse rider. Next to him is Mr. Major General C.S. Pannu. He's an air defense officer, and he headed the Army's Air Defense Unit, Intelligence Unit, and he was deeply involved in national security. We welcome you, sir, also. On my left is Dr. Ramayanam, and he's a scientist. He's CEO of a very big tech company today. He was ex-ISRO, then he worked in private sector for many, many years, and he brings with him a lot of competencies, space, cyber, telephony. So he's a immensely talented and academic mind. So welcome to all the panelists. So I would not stay between my panelist and you, and I'll immediately request Mr. Rajiv Jain to give his address as the chair of this session.
Oh, I thought I would first let the panel members speak. So at the outset, sir, I would request you to present your views.
Okay, thank you. So, friend, am I audible? Okay. So let me thank, first of all, for being invited here, because I'm a retired person. Now I spend my time in various other social pursuits, which are happier, which have nothing to do with policing or technology. But I was very excited to come here and meet all of you and the younger leaders of this country and the world who are trying to change the whole scene. So when I joined service, I was looking back quickly. Technology has always been there since the human civilization. When I joined as SP-77, we had one tracker, Khoji. He was the most sought after man, human technology. Whenever there would be burglary, crime, we would call him. And he would track the footprints. He would even solve a case of cattle thefts. Cattle theft was a major crime. The burglary was a major crime. Once I remember, I said, I want to see him. As a SP, and there was a big crime, big burglary at a trader's house in a village. So I immediately rushed from Bhiwani. I was SP Bhiwani. And I walked with him 10 kilometers the same night. And he could take us to a hamlet, where the thieves were there. You can imagine, because there were no roads, no Paka road, the footprints, he was so good at it. And similarly, cattle hooves, he could identify individual, unique things. Fantastic, we used to be a hero. And second time I saw technology, of course, murder, we had the fingerprints and forensic science and all that. Of course, that helped a lot. But then we saw this terrorism time. I was DIG Ambala, 91. We had this STD booths had come. That was the second big leap. And the terrorists would make a call from a STD booth. Our eyes were all fixed on the STD booths. And BSNL was very difficult to handle. Because it takes time to take permission to, So that was the second time I saw that technology leap. Third was, of course, mobile phone. And it changed everything. Mobile phone or the smartphone or now you're talking of space. So it's mind-boggling. Now it's, of course, mind-boggling. People like me may not be able to understand what's happening. So technology, when I became DG, I also thought of technology because we used to have that crime was emerging in Haryana, kidnapping of kids. A rich man's child is kidnapped, 8 years old, and they want a extortion of 5 crores. What do? It's a sudden collapse of the police system. If such a crime takes place, you don't know how to show your face to the world, to the public. So then how we got technology, that's how we invested heavily in technology, how quickly we can get hold of these fellows. And that helped us a lot. We became quite expert. Within hours we could trace. So now, of course, space technology coming. As I was, reading about his notes, General Pannu is here, very experienced fellow, person, and we have Kundu, my old colleague, and Jain Saab to hai expert. But I was wondering how space technology changed everything. And unless we have policing and we have technology inputs into policing, our citizens are not safe. I can only say that. Because police job is to keep your citizens safe, their property safe. Criminals are getting fast, smarter. We have Jamtara in somewhere, Jharkhand, semi-literate. Youngsters can hack technology, can be experts in technology, whereas we trained policemen take a much longer time. That is, there's environment change. There's a difference of environment in private sector doing things and criminal mafia doing things. They put everything at stake. We government fellows work in a different environment, rule-based, slow, risk-averse. All those problems are there. But imagine in Gurgaon, when a few years back I came, I was twice at the last point of being duped. Bach gaya, bas jaan bachi. So I with great difficulty, I very hesitantly handle my phone. Anything I can do. So friends, this is the age when the space technology has to come. And of course, as an army officer, he says how the hot war can take place, how the enemies can totally destabilize the country. So I feel the policeman has to use space technology, and he has to, you have to give him user-friendly technology, where the policeman at the last mile, he can use it quickly. Now we have in Haryana 112. It's solved some problems, but I still find they ask too many questions when I report crime scene to them. Suppose I'm caught in a jam, I tell them I'm here. They ask too many questions to me. Where are you? This, that, send us this. No, I don't know. I'm a stranger to a new place. So how do I send them? So they yet to progress a lot. Otherwise, they should get the coordinates quickly and send up somebody there. Then drone technology, then so many other things are happening. cyber security, my private security, my data security, so many challenges. And the policeman has to be smarter. No longer he can learn by the old traditional methods. So far our training institutions are, I feel, require much more modernization. Because our mindset is same Second World War, left, right, and fitness campaign. Commandos, we like to be proud to have commandos. Commando units are the most prestigious units. But today we have the technologist fellows who have grown beard, who have disabled hair, still they do wonders for you. Our chap should be smart and clean shaved, properly shaved, and otherwise no good. But no guy who's sitting in his bloody. We had one sub-inspector who was a very great hero during my times. We made him an inspector first, then we made him a DSP. Other day he has become an IPS officer. So great in technology. He would sit on his computer for 5 days, 3 days. So I swollen, but tracer. Those good old days when you had to trace from the tower, from lakhs of phones, you have to detect that phone of the criminal. And that sub-inspector could detect it. Once he saved my job, because CM said within 24 hours you must arrest this criminal against the serious crime of a kidnapping. So I said, yeah, Margaret, 24 hours, I have no magic to do that. But that is not the political leaders, make a statement. So, but this fellow, at 4 o'clock he called me, he said, sir, I have found the correct criminal number of the criminal. And by 9 o'clock we had the criminals in it. So you see, now technology doesn't require the old time of police discipline. It requires brilliance. It requires brilliance. That's how what I want to say. And I wish all the best. That's the simulators you got. Our training is still by the old instructors. You've got to have simulators. We have to have modules, realistic scene, real scene situation developing, and you've got to work on them, getting inputs, getting imagery, getting maps, getting locations, and how quickly you can solve the problem. These should be training inputs in our training institutions, which are lacking today. We only teach them law, 3 laws, 5 laws, important laws. That's okay. That can be learned very quickly online. But what are the challenges are how to solve the craziest of issues which are emerging and how to anticipate them and be better than, smarter than the criminals. So that's where the private sector has to come in. Typical policing system hierarchy cannot solve these problems. I'm of the firm opinion. The private sector has to be injected, and they have to dominate this area of high complex area. Now we have smart units, like I told you, of a sub-inspector, but they're so overloaded with crime. Every crime is given to them, so they become inefficient. After all, they're human, they can't solve all the problem in same time frame. And the rest of the police, 90% doesn't know much. So 10% are good, but we need 90% good. 10% can be doing other routine jobs. So that's what I have to say. Thanks.
Now we'll request General Pannu for his views. And General Pannu, as I said, is an expert in air defense, especially intelligence.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the subject for the panel discussion is space and utilization of space for homeland security. So the first point I want to convey is with respect to assets. So India being not one of, all our assets are dual use, or logically should be dual use as we translate or move forward and launch more satellites. So with respect to utilization of assets and the potential assets which are going to come in, we have a program for the space-based surveillance, which is 52 satellites. This has been announced by the government. So of these 52 satellites, 31 are going to be launched by the private sector, and the balance are going to be with the ISRO, or basically with the government. So these satellites will have a combination of payloads and will be also in a combination of various altitudes, starting from LEO to certain limited number of geostationary satellites. So that is with respect to the capability building which is going to come in, and this will give us capability not only over the Indian landmass, but well into the Indian Ocean region, which is our area of interest. Because the maritime, when we talk about homeland security, the maritime threat is vast and huge, much more in scale as would relate to the land borders. The second point I want to convey is with respect to what are the arrangements for managing the C2 when these assets come in. So there are structures in place which I will not highlight. These are part of the int vertical. There are a large number of intelligence agencies with the government who have systems in place for harnessing all the data which is flowing in. And we also have arrangements in place for handling commercial data. So once this data comes in, there is a network, secure networks are already in place for sharing of this data. So as we add on to or aggregate additional assets as they come in, all this aggregated data will flow in a seamless manner, duly as per restrictions placed on who can access, and they will flow to the people who can make a decision. And if one was to draw analogy or look at a possible world-class standard, then one should look at the NGA model. Now, NGA is the US agency. It's one of the intelligence. The full form of NGA stands for the National Intelligence Agency, where the I remains missing, and it remains possibly one of the largest int agencies in the world. And it's headquartered just outside of Washington, those people who would have been there or seen there. And they have various verticals to curate all the data which flows in, whether it is for bathymetric when you go into the maritime, or for the aeronautical charts, or for any one of the land patterns. So that's a good analogy for follow. As the Indian government absorbs space into all aspects of homeland security. The next point obviously is going to how to harness the data which is going to flow in from this particular space, because data at rest and those to be shared, especially for training modules, we are opening up the space sector to the private industry. So there will be training data sets which will get shared. The present policies of the government are indicative in brief. However, as our scale and potential of satellites grow, then maybe more policies in this regard will roll out. The next issue is with respect to how much of it will remain sovereign, because the government cannot control or does not have the scale at which we require to build. Because while I have indicated that 52 satellites are what are in the open domain being illustrated, the chairman ISRO himself within the last 1 week has indicated that we are potentially looking at least 200 satellites in the next 3 years. So where does the rest of these 200 satellites come in? And the combination of payloads which will address our security concerns is the point I convey, and the government will have to really upskill the policy networks to ensure that the data remains sovereign. The next issue when you discuss with respect to security is utilization of the hyperspectral payload. So the hyperspectral payload is what helps you sense, because it is over the frequencies it maps. It can change for change detection, for infrastructure build-up, so tomorrow if some digging has taken place somewhere or some tunnel is being constructed, though the SAR, informatory SAR can also do the same job, but the hyperspectral is the one wherein governance per se across the country, starting from agriculture to roads to construction, what type of construction, if it's underground, overground, everything gets covered in that particular payload. And the challenges in hyperspectral remain that we don't have the libraries. So for the anyone who's bringing up hyperspectral, should look at creating the libraries for the same, because then only you will be able to carry out the proper analysis of the subject. The last issue I want to touch about is as space becomes intrusive into the system, there will always be a debate between privacy and where does the surveillance end and where does the intrusion into your privacy start. So this remains a debate in all open societies, especially the democratic ones. And so space, and especially the digital lives which we presently lead, everything is seamless and everything is at some point of time will be seen through. So these are my initial thoughts.
Thank you, General Pannu. And here I'd like to mention that Elon Musk has made space very glamorous. I think it is the same moment when Steve Jobs came into computer. And today everyone is talking about space. And his IPO got oversubscribed 4 times. He got more than $300 billion. He's become a trillionaire. So everyone who's in space may become a billionaire at least in the future. So having said that, I also thought what are the uses that we can have of space in homeland security. First and most important is border surveillance. We depend too much on manpower. Second is coastal security. Third is drugs. For the information of the House, 81% of the drugs that are coming in today are from sea routes. And it is not land routes. And on top of that, we have Pakistanis sending drones with drugs, with arms, with explosives. Then India is a disaster-prone country. A lot of disasters happen. Emergency preparedness, communications, early warning system. Then telemedicine. Remote areas can be served telemedicine through space. Then is we have about 20+% forest, and every year there are forest fires. And space is an agency which can actually help us to mitigate forest. In states like Himachal, Uttarakhand, this is very serious. In California, forest fires are a havoc. Then distance education. One of the reasons our border areas are getting depopulated is because there's no education there. Can we use space for that? Then in states like Himachal Pradesh, we have landslides, cloudbursts. Then there is an issue of connectivity, especially in Naxal area, Jammu, Kashmir, Northeast. Can space actually provide that connectivity? Coming to cities, urban planning, traffic management is a chaos. Can satellites help in that? I think they can. If Google Maps can help, why can't satellites? Why can't we have a satellite over Delhi, Gurgaon, say Noida, this region, and provide us better traffic services? Metropolitan policing. Why do you need so many cameras? You can have something up in the space. Then cyclone monitoring. Especially eastern areas of the country get a lot of cyclone. They are cyclone prone. So can we have cyclone monitoring or early warning systems there? So with these kind of ideas, I now invite Dr. Rao to share his views.
Thank you, sir. I come from space technology applications and use cases. What you ask, I'll try to sum up in some of my comments. I worked in ISRO a long time back and NHRC, and then I was CEO of the State Remote Sensing Application Center in Andhra Pradesh. Actually, we tracked a Balaraju abduction at the time by Naxalites and tracked and gave the location. Greyhounds went and nabbed them. So that was my experience before I left to India. So in 1998, I moved to US. Last 28 years, I have been in US working for several companies: Space Imaging, GeoEye, Digital Globe, Earthcast, Capella Space, Hawkeye, and last year I left the private companies and I'm heading one of my own company from India. फिर भी दिल है हिंदुस्तानी. And with that experience, I have worked with very high resolution satellite imagery, optical, synthetic aperture radar, 30 centimeter, radio frequency, VHF, UHF, L band, X band, S band, C band, kind of monitoring for communications, voice communications. I can show examples of how we can listen to the voice of the people using, and also map the network of communications going on across the borders. So these are all some of the experience I bring in, and every time I was trying to sell a satellite imagery or a product, customer would say, Rao, I'm getting so much of satellite data. I don't have people to analyze them. I don't have how to integrate, I don't know. So you give me a solution, don't give me the product. You're giving me rice, serve me biryani, right? So that's what I started doing after that experience. What we are doing in Sathya Technology Services, satellite and hydrology applications is Sathya. That is truth, Sathya, right? So that's what in Sathya Technology Services, we are integrating the multi-source intelligence through AI and ML techniques and creating near real-time alerts to the users. So we already developed and delivered a maritime domain awareness system to one of the customers outside India. And first phase we delivered in 6 months. Scratch to platform on the cloud we delivered. And second customer is so happy, 80% of his intelligence he is already getting with the phase 1. He said, okay, we need to integrate other satellite and RF, etc. So he gave us the phase 2 and we are working on the phase 2 to be delivered in every month to be delivered, not to wait till end of the project. So in coming to with that experience and knowledge, we have already started building certain things like specifically border you mentioned, sir. For border monitoring, we have the best capable BSF and others who are guarding our borders. But unfortunately, still we are getting a lot of terrorists digging tunnels and coming into the country. Why we are not able to solve? Okay, that is the question I posed to myself. What we can do from space technology? And then we designed space alone will not be enough. Ground alone will not be enough. So we have to have a space, air, ground. We have our troops along this one. What we can do, technology we can do is, take interferometry you mentioned, sir. From satellite interferometry, we can measure millimeter level changes on the ground. When a tunnel is dug, there will be millimeter level changes over the tunnel. So if you constantly monitor every week or a couple of times in a week, so you will see somewhere, wherever this abnormal, actually the surface sinks few millimeters and we can measure from interferometry. The second part of it is radio frequency monitoring. When somebody goes into the tunnel, their communication doesn't work because of the overburden. They have to communicate from the other side to inside. When I say inside the country, they have to tell somebody, hey, we are coming, or we are bringing, or we are sending. So that communication is received by other guy who is on the surface here. This monitoring we can do 3 million square kilometers is minimum one shot we can get. 3 million square kilometers. We are talking about the entire western border as one shot we can get, show you where the emitters are located, where people are using VHF sets or UHF sets or L-band satellite phones, or if there you have radars, etc., we can detect them. So this technology, first it gives you location, then you can go into, okay, this is my sector of my interest, here are the communications, so you can go into the system and listen to the voice. I have examples on my laptop I can show, not from India, from some other country. And that voice is speaking in Sindhi, Punjabi, what is that language he is speaking, what is that he is talking, you can listen, and it depends upon the frequency and how long you can record, 5 minutes, 10 minutes kind of recording you can do and listen to the voice. This technology is essential for our border guarding and preventing the tunnels and terrorist movement across the borders. The other part of it is maritime domain awareness. How people are able to come in what do you call, rubber dinghy or whatever it is. How they are able to come, yes, even some of the Coast Guard looked at them and left. That's what I heard from media. Okay, why? Are you not able to, okay, big vessels, extra AIS communication, same X-band, S-band radars we can use, correlate with AIS. They are legal or illegal vessels, we can identify and give you every 5 minutes, we can deliver you the information. These are all the dark vessels. When they put up their AIS, we call them as dark vessels. Okay, here are the dark vessels, or here is somebody is loitering, or here is 2 vessels are sailing together, where somebody is illegally bringing arms, drugs kind of stuff can be identified. I'm not saying drug is there in the vessel. I'm saying here is a nefarious activity I'm seeing from the satellite technology. Of course, your Coast Guard and others. We are not replacing anybody in the ground. Normally, people think satellite is doing, I lose my job. No, you will have more easy job to do. And the other part of it, which I would like to highlight is, Apart from these technologies, for example, I was talking about the border, space, air, we are already having GPRs and we use on the ground or helicopters. One other technology, what I would suggest is seismic observations. See, seismic surveys are done for oil and gas, very deep penetrating, we can get the data. Here, what I am suggesting is, locate a geophone every 10 kilometers or whatever is the frequency you want, and all along the border, and this the geophones are networked into whatever is the cable system you have along, and through IoT it comes to the platform. Platform need not be at the front, or it can be at commander's level if required. So whenever there is a tunnel digging or major activity going on, there will be vibration. Very minute vibrations are recorded. So the moment we see kilometer number 25 and 26, there is a vibration. That much information if is given, you go and check that one. Our troops are readily available there, go and check that. Similarly, another resistivity of the rocks or soil. If it is loose material, the resistivity of the material is fixed because we measure it. There are other uses for geology, mining, in groundwater. I originally started as a groundwater hydrogeologist, so I understand what it does. When you put electrodes, just rods, put into and connect them with power, and then it's all battery power, no shock or anything. So connect them to the same platform. Whenever there is a sudden change in the resistivity, if some material is removed, the resistivity changes below. So we can keep it as 5 meter, 10 meter, or 20 meter, whatever is the depth range required, electrodes, and say, hey, there is some change in the resistivity at this spot. We correlate the RF, correlate the seismic data, correlate your resistivity data, plus apart from your GPR, heliborne GPR, plus another thing is, how much of IR we are using, I don't know because I am not a border guy here. Infrared, we have already used infrared imaging using drones, and we can identify the people walking and moving in the night because body temperature is higher than the surrounding temperature. Yeah. So we can identify people. Actually, we even have some videos with me on the vessels when the people are moving. And so integrating all these, I'm not talking about a single source of information. Integrate them through an AI, deliver an alert to the users of our side, and then give them a 24/7 live, nearly real-time alert system. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Now we have Mr. Rajiv Jain for his address as the chair for the session.
Thank you, Sanjay. So, talking of analytics and solutions, reminds me that when cyber initially came in, so I recall most government departments were busy buying hardwares or softwares separately. But what was lacking was solutions. Mr. Rao, thank you for having mentioned several different solutions, a couple of which I'd not heard of, but now that you mention it, they make a lot of sense. And yes, different kind of intelligence generated from space is also coupled with other kind of inputs generated from aerial instruments or ground-based instruments can help generate, by synergizing them, can help generate solutions. Pretty cool. Now in space, as Major General Pannu said, the technology is dual use. So it provides you facilities, it provides you productivity, it provides you information intelligence, but at the same time, those same capabilities can also be used in a manner which is deleterious to your national interests. And the same satellites that track cyclones can also track military troops. Commercial imagery that can monitor crops can reveal buildup. NAVIC times our UPI and GST transactions. And the GSAT-7 keeps our Navy connected in the Indian Ocean region. RISAT-1B sees through the Himalayan clouds to track. But all these, if we have good solutions, combining different technologies, they can they can augment the amount of information which is available at the ground level. And as Mr. Dalal said, that time is of essence. As also, the information needs to reach down at the operative level. So some imagery or some satellite-based data which is available to the forces or to the troops on the ground after 1 day or 2 days may be of no consequence whatsoever. But it has to scale down right down to the people on the ground and in time. And as a part of maritime security, EOS 06 and SATCOM provide dark shipping. You talked about drugs? Yep. Yes, so dark shipping alerts and helping drug busts in the Arabian Sea. You also talked about disaster management. So after the Wayanad landslide, ISRO gave NDRF damage maps within 6 hours, not 3 days. So a lot of ground has been covered, but at the same time, there is asymmetry. There is asymmetry because the providers of technology are concentrated elsewhere. Supply chain is not in our control. Components, bulk of the components are manufactured elsewhere, and the likelihood of their being in control or their being exercised at a critical point of time to our disadvantage is of a very high order. And there are invisible threats also. For instance, GPS spoofing and jamming. We've had multiple instances where aviation has been threatened because of GPS spoofing and jamming. Not only that, during war scenarios in Ukraine, in Iran war also, GPS spoofing and jamming has had some effect. In India, about 465 GPS or GNSS interference cases were reported between November 23 and February 25, particularly in our border areas affected by Sikh terrorism, the Indo-Pak IB. So there's a wide aviation impact. It also has a wider impact on VIP security. So if the plane carrying some VIPs, the GPS of that is spoofed or jammed, it can have disastrous consequences. Also, it may even unsettle the political setup. Another threat to that is denial of access to not only at the component level, but also at the analytic stage where artificial intelligence and other systems come in to analyze and to manage all this massive amount of data. So where there's denial of access to technology, hardware as also software and artificial intelligence, it creates a significant barrier. This is something that we need to augment in our own systems. So India must prepare for a triple threat scenario, combining kinetic attacks, electromagnetic denial, and AI model starvation. So for us, the strategic challenges are space situation awareness, SSA, the supply chain vulnerability, autonomy, meaningful autonomy in that, asset survivability, redundancy, as also AI model vulnerability. Another blind spot is that non-GPS navigation alternatives need to be devised besides redundancy. And to strengthen the sovereign capabilities in a meaningful manner, one must have institutional alignment. General Pannu mentioned about different security agencies sharing the data, which is geospatial data which is generated, but the capabilities of different agencies would need to be augmented. Not only that, that data is available at one place or 2 places or 10 places within that agency. But as Mr. Dalal said, it needs to reach to the officer who's actually operating in the field. Unless it reaches there in a time-bound manner, in a manner which is easily understandable and can be implemented, this entire exercise would go waste. So management of data is significant, and it also requires institutional alignment, development of modalities within the organizations, synergies, etc. And to reduce vulnerability to GPS denial, India is already expanding NAVIC. Mobilizing We have tried to mobilize the private sector through IDEX. It's a Ministry of Defense program which encourages research and development. It also gives funds for incubation. And Project Netra for space situational awareness. Mission Shakti demonstrated that India possesses both the kinetic and non-kinetic capabilities that can contribute to deterrence. Now, things which need fixing. One is latency. I already mentioned about it. Second is scalability, which is going down right down to the lowermost person. So a person operating in a JNK operational scenario or in a left-wing operational scenario would need intelligence on location of the adversaries, their movement, the kind of weapons, etc., that they have, the numbers that are there, etc., or the tunnels that they have dug, the precautionary measures that they are taking place, etc. For disaster management, you mentioned, so significant contributions of space can be there to disaster management. Disaster management results in, it's relevant from a homeland security perspective because it can result in tremendous instability of large geographical regions, large number of persons, as also the political system. So early warning systems, cyclone awareness, earthquakes, movement of glaciers, all those would come in. Maritime fusion, GSAT-7 and EOS-6 provide commercial SAR for Indian Ocean region. Can India take the lead, say for the Indo-Pacific region, develop some relationships whereunder we take the lead on certain aspects of management of data, or applying that to SIA, sorry. If you have international relationships, can SIA take the lead in developing leadership, can take the lead in some niche areas related to space technology, where other countries, entities of other countries also collaborate to develop products which would be useful not only for India but also for those other countries also. Then there are critical infrastructure resilience. We have single point failures for power grid, railways, UPI. All these have a national security role also. So for instance, if railways are carrying troops or they are carrying armaments, or there could be VIP movement also, or there could be large number of people on railways. So now that railway engines and railway movement, signal system, their telecommunication, etc., also is partly space-based, partly terrestrial. So any jamming or spoofing of that, any corruption in that, if that results in a significant rail accident and large number of casualties, it can create a lot of problems internally. So one needs to, similarly, power grid. Large-scale disruption of power grid through minor interference can cause havoc. Or UPI, financial stability would be impacted. Also, we need to go into, China demonstrated ASAT in 2007. We also need to do that. Volt typhoon in US impacted their water and power. We need to harden our own capabilities there. And data overload is a problem, so where the issue of solutions that Dr. Rao mentioned about. So significant amount of data is generated. I recall we would get massive amounts of data, and we needed analysts, and also we needed to merge data from different sources. One could be satellite imagery, another could be drone imagery, another could be air-based imagery. And one would need to merge all of that to draw a meaningful picture which could be relevant to our forces on the ground who are dealing with JNK terrorists or left-wing extremists or insurgents in the northeast. So technology from one source, satellite alone, would be inadequate unless it is dovetailed with the others. And I would say that the government of India is committed. It has expanded this sector in the last 5 years. It has invited the private sector, and it has also developed certain security protocols which enable the private sector agencies to associate with the defense sector as also the space, because some sensitive components and sensitive issues are also there. So the security infrastructure which the defense deals with in its own production thing, we've developed some things for the private sector also. So that it would be easy for defense to partner with them to share certain designs and plans with the private sector which they could develop. And finally, that we need to be prepared for if India lost 20% of its satellite capacity in the first 48 hours, then what alternatives do we have? We need to be prepared for disaster within our space and other management itself. So I compliment my fellow colleagues for putting up some very relevant points, and I stand educated on those.
So ladies and gentlemen, we could not have had a better panel. You have the Security and Intelligence Chief of India. You have the Chief of Police of neighboring state, which is one of the most developed state and one of the richest states in India. You had the Air Defense Intelligence and Space expert, and you had Dr. Rao, who's a czar in his own right in space science and technology. So one last thought before we close. General Pannu.
Among all the vulnerabilities, especially with respect to homeland security, is the P&T aspect. So because the P&T, we are slightly thin, if I was to put it across in that manner, India as a nation. Because positioning you can still manage, but the timing remains very critical. The GNSS component is key in all in our daily life, and also in defense applications across platforms. So though we have multi-satellites receivers at our end, so we have redundancy in that sense, that we are utilizing global service providers. But we require sovereign capability. So this is my last shot, wherein, when the private sector pitches in, since the P&T services remain sovereign across the globe, how will the Indian government handle it?
Okay. You see, I've heard with great attention to all the speakers and new points, and Mr. Rao especially, how technology is shaping our lives. And I, as a DGP, I was interested in my handling crime in the state. You see, for me, a serious crime is like a war on the border. It affects us as deeply as it will affect the country if there's a war. So for me, it was 24-hour vigilance, and I realized technology is the key. Otherwise, police forces cannot match the criminals or the anti-social elements, anti-national elements. So as I've heard how technology can shape up, and policing can improve a lot. It can be far more efficient. Our citizens of India can be far more safer, secure, whether it's traffic, whether movement on the road, whether it's sitting in the house or in your society. Everywhere we can be safer if the police forces can adopt latest technologies and use them effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, there is substantial improvement, there is substantial development in the technologies available, and I'm very happy to participate in this discussion. Couple of more points what probably I missed is that regarding the how do we monitor crime in the urban areas. There is one point I didn't touch. There are technologies available for that. We can integrate apart from the technology space, air, drone, even electric pole mounted cameras, etc. We already have, but integrating them into the bigger system with that too quickly, within few minutes you should need an analysis. And especially if you use nighttime infrared cameras, you can see people moving at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the night, and at least you can alert your patrols guys, go, hey, check this so-and-so gully, so-and-so area, that kind of alerting will definitely, it will reduce your petrol costs and driving routinely instead of going for petrols, you can use some of these. There is a modus operandi. You always use modus operandi. So from modus operandi, we can build back how these guys are doing and how do we nab them. And it's possible to do. Thank you, sir.
Your views?
Yeah, I'm quite in agreement with my colleagues, and making technology available to the last man who's operating in the field is extremely crucial, and the technology should be available on time. And for this, in the current age and times, the role of private sector is absolutely essential. We need to have partnership. The technology should be stable, it should be secure, it should be sovereign.
So, you took up a lot of our time because lunch was late. Can we take a couple of questions? Just a question from the audience, one question, probably. Huh? Huh? One question, anyone? Yes.
I often wonder, there are so many smart IITians in the police, and some of them go into the army. There is no sort of avenue inside for opening up that force and let the industry, they know what the technology is. They probably would have built it if they had stayed away from, the police force. To have that youth, the policemen use on the last mile the best technology out there and let the friction out. There is no sort of avenue out there.
Mr. Jain answer it.
There are a lot of IIT guys. It's a positive thing, but at the same time, there's a slight negative to it also. Currently, our recruitment, we have more than 80% who are engineers and scientists. It has a positive side and a negative side. So social scientists are less, although we deal more with social problems. We need guys, we also
Solution
need guys
is technical, sir.
handle crowds. But going back to this IIT guys, some of these IIT guys have done wonderfully well. Things which I or the non-technical officers do not understand, they are super at it. They are extremely good at it. So I can tell you that they are doing extremely well, and they use their knowledge base to reinforce the strengths of the organization. They do that.
Thank you. Here I like to conclude. I've done a tenure in Water Resources Ministry, which is a very technical and scientific ministry. And I was chairman Brahmaputra board also. Brahmaputra is the largest river, lot of floods. So there we had a question, how do we assess the water in India? The traditional methods like tracker, Khoji did not serve us. So we went for space. We entered into MOU with ISRO, and there's something called Water Atlas in India, Water Atlas of India, Watershed Atlas of India. And we also did mapping of the farms, agriculture farms. And it is to the credit of India that at the time of independence, we had a lot of famines. Millions of people used to die. Today, our food grain production has crossed 360 million metric tons. And we are a net exporter of food grains. More than 1 lakh crore food grain we export. It is largely because of space technology. I think it is time that we introduce that kind of technology in homeland security also. This was a crisis because when we became independent in 1960s, we had to import so much of food that every 15 minutes there was a ship on the ports of India carrying grain for us. So today that has been addressed because of space technology. A lot of technologies, but space technology was one of them. I think, sir, this is time today that space technology is incorporated into complete gamut of homeland security. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for patiently listening to us. And I thank this eminent panel, and it was a dream kind of a panel for me, and I have held these officers in so much of esteem all my life, and it is an individual pleasure for me also. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, our esteemed moderator, chair, and all our panelists. Indeed, it was a great session, and thank you so much for abiding to the entire time limit too. Thank you so much, everyone. Can we just have one group picture before we let you go?